Now, Tanzania has become the latest country in Africa to ban plastic bags. The measure came into effect on Saturday. All imports, sales, and use of plastic bags are prohibited. Africa is leading efforts to tackle plastic pollution, now with 34 countries imposing restrictions. Well, let's take a quick look at some of the other countries who've adopted similar measures. In 2002, Bangladesh is said to be the first in the world to declare a ban on thin plastic bags. The decision was made after it was found that the bags had a severe impact on the stormwater drainage system. That same year, India passed a law to restrict plastic bag production. Before the ban, about 20 cows died from ingesting plastic each day. It was an important move for Hindu communities who view the animals as sacred. And in China, plastic bag waste became so widespread that many began using the term white pollution. But a full ban was introduced in 2008. And since then, plastic bag waste has dropped by more than 75%. That's about 40 billion plastic bags. Well, Hannah Safford is an environmental policy specialist, and she joins us via Skype from the University of California in Davis. Hannah, give us an idea of the scale of the problem of plastic pollution and just how much of a difference a ban like this makes.
Sure. So the scale of plastic pollution across the world is enormous. There have been studies that have shown that, to take one example, by 2050, we're predicting that there will be more plastic in the ocean by weight than fish. So it's crucial that countries do whatever they can to act to reduce the amount of plastic production and plastic consumption to cut down on that. And so single-use plastic bags are one of the most ubiquitous uses of plastic across the country and across the world. In New York, for instance, billions of plastic bags are used every year, and that's just one city. So taking action to cut off plastic bags from the supply side can do a lot to cut down on that particular source of plastic pollution.
Hannah, coming back to Africa, how strictly is this ban in Tanzania likely to be enforced? In Rwanda, for instance, they search your luggage at the airport for plastic bags.
They'll be doing the same thing in Tanzania, yeah. And Tanzania has a lot of their own stake in this effort for two reasons. First of all, Tanzania has a large part of their national economy invested in tourism. And when you have plastic bags that are littering the environment and hurting local ecosystems, hurting the wildlife, that's going to hurt Tanzania in the longer run as well. Plastic bags also have adverse health effects. A lot of waste is burned. And when you burn that waste, it creates toxic fumes that can adversely cause human and health effects for humans and health effects for the environment. So Tanzania has a lot at stake here, and I'm looking forward to seeing them follow Rwanda's example and following through on enforcement.
Hannah, I believe that Tanzania outlawed the manufacturing and distribution of plastic bags in 2017, and this new ban doesn't include plastic packaging for medical services, industrial products, the construction industry, agricultural sector, food processing. How much of a difference will this actually make in terms of the volume of plastic waste in the country?
It should make a large difference. I mean, certainly whenever you're putting one of these policies into effect, you have to think about how you balance the stringency of the policy with the effects that it'll have on industries across the board. So when you're putting in this plastic bag ban, you want to think about the important exceptions that need to be made for critical industries, which Tanzania is doing. But even just cutting down on single-use plastic bags for residential use should do quite a bit to cut down the volume of plastic waste. Again, we see billions of single-use plastic bags being used for shopping produced every year in, just if you pick a couple of cities alone. And so if you cut down on even just that, the other exceptions are worthwhile.
Hannah, we're now looking at 34 countries in Africa. This has been a charge in terms of cutting down plastic pollution led by developing countries. Why is that in your mind?
And I think that's because we're seeing this inspiring example of the countries that are most affected by the issues being the first to act on them. I also think about how countries in island nations are being some of the first to act on climate change very seriously and ramping up their efforts to go zero carbon, to go zero greenhouse gas emission, and that's because they know they're the most affected by it. Similarly, here in Tanzania, a large part of Tanzania's economy, Tanzania's human health, depends on cutting down pollution and cutting down waste burning, especially burning of waste that can contain harmful compounds like plastic bags. That's not just the case for Tanzania, that's the case for other African nations as well. And so I think that's why we're seeing that charge start there.
Hannah Safford, an environmental policy specialist, speaking to us from the University of California. Thanks for sharing your expertise with us on Al Jazeera, Hannah.
For having me on.